Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Danielle, aka Stitcherista, here on YouTube, and today is Tuesday, March 8th. My job today starts at 10:30, so I have a little bit of time because it's about 8:45 a.m. here. I've been up since 6:30, which is usually earlier than I get up. I usually get up 7:30, so. But yeah, let's go. Got all the stuff done. All I gotta do really is laundry and this video. Yeah. So I realized yesterday I forgot to do the OMG moments. So sorry about that. But first, no purchases to show, although the things I ordered from Nashville Market, if you've been living under a rock, you don't know that this past weekend was the biggest needlework cross-stitch market of like the year. And I had pre-ordered, I really like ordering from Abby, Top Knot Stitcher. And I had pre-ordered some stuff from her, I think 4 patterns. Well, I went in there yesterday realizing that then she would probably have everything else entered in, and I bought some more. So I'll wait until I get those in. Both orders ship today. Let's go. So hopefully I'll have those by the end of the week. And then I'll be able to show you guys. So I did do some stitching yesterday. Remember, I started Pinoy Stitch Sassy Coffee Lady. I'm stitching it on 20 count Aida from MyVintageNeedlearts in the color Beach Glass. And this is what I got done. So I've started, I got the word coffee first, evil, because it says coffee first, evil schemes later. I got the one of the H's done because I obviously counted down from the E. So yeah, coming along. Progress is progress, right? Okay. Talking point for today. Why did I get out of there? I was in Facebook and I got out of it. Okay, so I think this is, I don't know if it's, the person that posted this said it's Matt and Andrea Murphy. So I don't know which person is posting this. And they're like, I'm about to brag a little, not about my cross-stitch skills, but about my fabulous office space that allows me to stitch during quiet minutes. And they rent beach chairs and umbrellas. And this reminded me of Ocean City, although this could literally be anywhere. Can you imagine being able to, but what prompted me to save this as a talking point? Have you ever tried to stitch on the beach? Because I have. It doesn't work. But in there, they're like in sort of in a closed space, so they probably don't have all of that wind. I remember one year Bill and I went and I took cross stitch, and it is so windy with the breeze coming off the water. You cannot, I could not stitch on the beach. I can barely stitch outside, even on my back porch. I've tried and I'm like, forget it. Forget it. Yeah. So have you guys successfully stitched outside? Yeah. Not me. Can't figure it out. And then this is kind of cool. So why did it? That's interesting. I just saved the product. I didn't save. So this person got tired. Somebody posted something in one of the groups where they got tired of mixing up their needles. So they bought these personalized needle cases that on Etsy. And what's the store? It doesn't say. But see how they're labeled with the number? That's pretty cool. And they look really nice. You could just put in the title as handmade personalized needle case. So I really like that. I don't know. I thought I'd saved the post, but it just saved the link. And then the last talking point, and I'll have to find some new ones because this is my last one that I have. Someone named Sarah posted in the group Cross Stitch Nerdy and Uncensored. I told you I belong to a lot of groups on Facebook. So She says, I don't know if anyone remembers my find from a few weeks ago, but I finally went back to see if the stash was still there. So she must have went to either a thrift store or somewhere, and there was a whole bunch of floss, and she went back and they want $1 a skein. She said, why would I pay more than I would pay at the craft store? He's out of his mind for asking that. And people commented and said, I feel like some people, he's probably not a stitcher or a crafter. He has no idea what the real price is. I think I would have done a little bit of research though if I was him, right? Because you can get a skein of, for what, 62 cents, is it? Something like that. Someone said, I'll pay them $1 per bin. Yeah, right. Someone said, I'm sure he wants to move the product. I would call back and say, if they're still there next week, I'll give you $10 per bin. I mean, let me show you the picture of how much floss is in these bins. It's quite a bit. I mean, look at all that. Yeah, that person definitely is not a stitcher though. Like they have no idea. I thought that was really interesting though. Have you ever come upon a good cross stitch find in a vintage, like in a, you know, a charity shop or thrift store or anything like that? I haven't. I know McKenna has Stitching and Sequins. She has a really good, what's the word I'm looking for? Not Goodwill. I guess charity shop or thrift store. That, I think that's what I'm looking for. Okay. I have a bunch of OMG moments. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. This one is by Cynthia Overstreet Rayburn. I just absolutely love this. I don't know the floss that she used, but I'm always just in love with monochrome patterns. Look at that. Look at that thread. Isn't that thread? It looks like a Threadworks thread. God, isn't that neat? I love it. Absolutely love that. And I don't even know what pattern that is because she didn't post it in the, someone said it's called Quaker Bat. Oh, they used DMC 4511. So that's one of the color variations thread. Very cool. All right. This one's by Kitty Falcone. She started this for her music classroom, but it was so tiny and painstaking, I kept putting it off. And she finally finished it after she retired. It is an alphabet. Yeah, I can see how this would be holy moly backstitch. Look at that, because look at all of the like music staffs and stuff. That's where, look at all that backstitch. Good God. But it's very cool though. I like it. All right, this next one. Christian Tremblay. She's a friend of mine on Facebook. She tagged me in this. And this is a book quilt. Oh my God. Look at this. I mean, and there's like titles on all these books. I can't with that. That is a quilt. Can you imagine what that took to make that? Stunning. I would want to hang that on the wall. I would not want to use it. Love it. Oh my God, dude. Okay, here is a Heaven and Earth Designs by Karen Lorenz. It is Elizabeth Welker's Meditation. She started this in October 2020. I am just like, holy shit. Look at that. Solidly stitched. Wowza. Right? Holy moly. Okay, so the next one is probably my favorite Heaven and Earth designs that I've seen done. I've seen it done by a handful of people. The first one I ever saw finish this was Mumala Stitches. I feel like she still has a Flosstube. I haven't watched her in a long time, but she's a fabulous stitcher. This is Ex Machina by Chris Ortega. So she did 2 threads on 20 count, 282,600 stitches. I looked at this for so long. This is just such a stunning piece of needlework. I mean, look at that. I love this one so much. If I was ever going to stitch a Heaven on Earth Designs, I might pick this one. I love it. I mean, look at it close up. Look at her face. I mean, seriously. I probably, if I ever stitch something like this, I wouldn't be able to stop looking at it on the wall. Really. Gorgeous. And then the last one I have is a Mirabilia. So this is by Heidi Vickery, and she says she's home after a slight accident at the framers. She had a bottle green frame. Okay, well that probably wouldn't have looked too bad, but I love this piece. Lots of stitching with this one. Stunning, isn't it? That dress looks really heavy, but gorgeous. Okay, so I thought today I would do a true crime story because it has been a hot minute since I have done a true crime story. Right? Yeah, it's been a while. I want to say it's been like at least 2 weeks since I've done one. All right, so today's story is Donna Horwitz. It was the society wedding of 1967 in Buffalo, New York. Beautiful, stylish Donna Carnival was marrying Lanny Horwitz, well on his way to making his first million at the age of just 21. Wow. But this wasn't just the marriage of 2 beautiful young people. This was a union between 2 of the city's most prominent families. The wedding was a lavish affair, the bride stunning in a non-traditional knee-length dress. The honeymoon was in Puerto Rico, first class all the way, no expense spared. And that opulent lifestyle would be maintained once the families settled down to life together. Lanny was entirely taken with his young bride, determined to fulfill her every wish and whim. His real estate business was booming, providing the couple with a mansion, luxury vehicles, boats, even an airplane. Jesus. When their son Radley entered the world in 1974, hey, that's the year I was born. It seemed that life could not get much better, but it did. In 1977, the Horwitzes relocated to Palm Beach County, Florida. In 1990, Lanny commissioned the construction of their dream home, a luxury villa in exclusive Admiral's Cove, complete with its own dock for Lanny's cabin cruiser. Wow, living the American dream, right? This was an enviable existence, one that most of us envision, I'm going to say, when we think of the American dream. But there is a price to be paid for such success, and usually its currency is time. Yes. Lanny's business kept him fully occupied, often away from his family for days on end. So inevitably, it began to weigh on his relationship with his wife. Yeah, I mean, a marriage you can't sustain that. You just really can't. I agree with all of that. By Christmas 2000, the union was coming apart at the seams. Lanny had found out that Donna had been having an affair. Ooh. Not that I condone it, but I can see how she came to that, though. But see, when I see that, it makes me wonder, did Donna ever talk to Lanny and say, hey, we're in trouble here. I need to be spending more time with you. See, they don't talk about that. So that he might have been able to accept, but what really hurt was the identity of his wife's lover. Oh, Lordy. She had been sleeping with an Admiral's Cove security guard, someone well below her station in Lanny's worldview. So someone, according to him, who was beneath her because he's a security guard and she's wealthy. In May 2001, Donna moved out of the family home and into a condo. and eventually the couple divorced. The dream, it appeared, was over. And that was not the only dream that had turned sour. Lanny had begun to lose his touch. A series of bad fiscal decisions had put his finances under severe strain. Then came the 2008 subprime crisis, and suddenly Lanny was looking down the barrel. Something had to be done fast or he risked losing it all. To Lanny, that something meant winning back the heart of his ex. Oh boy. Donna was independently wealthy. Hers was old money acquired through her family, unaffected by the whims of the market. So she didn't even need Lanny's money when they got married. She also required little encouragement to get back with Lanny. In truth, she had never stopped loving him. Soon she was ensconced back at the family home with her husband and their adult son. Radley, their son, had returned to the fold after the failure of his sporting goods business. So again, it makes me think that she never talked to Lanny when they were married the first time and said, hey, we're in trouble here. You know what I mean? This, however, was no blissful family reunion, no second chance at saving old wounds. Life had not stood still in the years that Lanny and Donna had been apart. Lanny now had a business partner, and an attractive one. Oh no. Her name was Francine Tice, and Donna quickly became convinced that she and Lanny were sleeping together. Lanny swore that it wasn't so, but Donna didn't believe him. To her, it appeared that Lanny was tormenting her, rubbing his affair in her face, perhaps as payback for her indiscretion all those years ago. Maybe. This supposed affair soon became an obsession with Donna. She frequently wrote about it in her diary, lamenting the fact that Lanny was so cold towards her, whereas he was fawning and attentive to Francine. It amazes me how we see a situation, right? I think you can make yourself believe almost anything if you can manipulate details for sure. These entries in her diary referred to her ex-husband as Mr. Meanie, Lord, and literally oozed acrimony. They reached their crescendo in September of 2011 when Donna recorded her thoughts on a trip Lanny was planning to North Carolina with Francine. He had assured her that it was purely to finalize a business deal. She believed that it was no more than a dirty weekend. Okay. On the morning of September 30th, 2011, Admiral's Cove security personnel responded to an alarm at the Horwitz residence. The door was opened to them by an apparently drowsy Radley, who said that he didn't know why the alarm had been triggered. He did, however, allow them inside to conduct a search. It was in the master suite that they found Lanny lying on the bathroom floor in a pool of blood. After ascertaining that Lanny was dead, one of the guards called 911. The first officers to arrive at the scene initially thought that Lanny was a suicide. This was perhaps understandable since Lanny's brains had been blown out by a shot fired into his mouth. Good night. However, the medical examiner would soon dispel the notion of self-harm. An examination of the corpse revealed that Lanny had been shot 9 times with 2 different weapons. What? Jesus! Who had shot him? The idea of a home invasion was briefly considered, but just as quickly ruled out. There was no evidence of a struggle, and nothing had been taken from the home. Besides, Admiral's Cove was tied down tight as a drum with state-of-the-art surveillance equipment. No outsider could have entered without being detected. So that left just 2 suspects, Radley and Donna. Initially, the detectives liked Radley as the shooter. He was a gun nut who kept as many as 26 firearms at the home. He had a police record and had served a short sentence for illegally selling firearms, and he admittedly did not get on with his father, so they didn't even get along. Perhaps most importantly, Radley had the most to gain from his father's death because he was the sole beneficiary of a substantial estate. Ooh. Tell you, top 2 reasons for killing someone: love, money. Actually, should be money, love. Taken in for questioning, Radley cooperated fully with the police. He said that he had been awakened by gunshots and had gone to investigate. He had found his mother in the living room screaming hysterically, "I think he's dead." He brought her a glass of water and calmed her down. Then Donna had started repeating over and over, "He was so awful." At that point, the security team had arrived and he let them into the residence. Radley wasn't asked to take a polygraph at this point, but he volunteered anyway. He was asked to submit to a gunshot residue test and did so willingly. The test came back negative. Donna, on the other hand, was far from cooperative. She refused to answer questions and would not allow the police to test her hands for gunpowder. Dude, what? With no evidence of wrongdoing, the officers were forced to stand down and let her leave. Her attitude had, however, elevated her to the top of the suspect list. But what motive did Donna have for shooting her ex-husband, a man she had only recently reconciled with? The oldest motive in the book. Donna was jealous of Lanny's relationship with Francine, and it was all laid out in her journal. Dude. Reconstructing the crime, investigators theorized that Donna's insane jealousy got the better of her that day. She was determined that Lanny would not fly to North Carolina with Francine. While Lanny was in the shower with his bags packed and ready in the hallway, Donna had crept in and opened fire on him. She had emptied the entire cylinder of her .38, then fetched Lanny's own gun and shot him 3 more times. Wow. So Lanny is lying mortally wounded on the bathroom floor, and Donna forced the barrel of the revolver into his mouth and pulled the trigger. That's brutal. So Donna was arrested and charged with murder 1 week after her husband's death. She pleaded not guilty at her 2013 trial, with her defense trying to transfer the blame to Radley. Really? It didn't work. Donna was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. An appeal in 2017 reduced the charge to second-degree murder and the sentence to 32 years. But Donna is 71 years old when that revised sentence was passed. So unless she lives an extraordinarily long life, she will die behind bars. She would have to live to 103 to get out. And what would you be doing then? So yeah, Donna's going to die in prison. And it makes you wonder, was he really cheating? You don't know. You don't know. I can see, though, how you would become jealous and envious, though, right? Especially if some young chickie and you're in your 60s, 70s. Yeah. Okay. I'm still reading Suicide Med. I read a lot yesterday. I'm on page 258 already, and I was only I read 200 pages yesterday. I read a whole lot. One of my favorite things, I've gotten into the habit the last few days, because I've been stitching up here, and then at about 4:30ish, because we usually have dinner like 5:30, 6 o'clock, like 4:30ish, I'll go downstairs, get some goldfish, the snack cracker, because we bought some at Costco, and I'll grab my book and read my book and have some goldfish. Past 2 days I've done that. I enjoy it very much because it's quiet down there. I've been in my office all day and Bill's outside. So yeah. Okay. Okay. This is an interesting one. Anybody can judge, not many can do. Does that mean we shouldn't judge somebody before we know their walk a mile in their shoes? Is that what that means? Interesting. Okay. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic Tuesday. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.